Have you ever felt like basic care of your horses or vet visits or farrier's visits turn into a battle that eventually turns into a complete nightmare? If yes, you're not alone, and cooperative care is about to change that story. Hi, you are listening to the Vet Care Training Podcast. I am Dr. Katerina Junghanzová. I am an equine veterinarian, cooperative care trainer, and founder of Vet Care Training. In this podcast episode, I am going to explain to you what is equine cooperative care and how it can change the way you and your horses or your equines view situations like injections or hoof care or whatever healthcare procedures you need to do with them. So let's dive right into it. As you probably know, not many horses particularly enjoy situations like veterinarian's visits or farrier's appointments or even daily care such as brushing or maybe some care that you need to provide to them extra, like wound cleaning if they have some little scratch on themselves or something like this. And oftentimes, these equines respond to you or your vet or your caregiver or whoever is taking care of them. They respond to that person's effort to treat them with what we call an unwanted behavior. So essentially, they won't let us do it. And oftentimes, we think it is normal. Not many people like dentists, for example, and it's kind of the same thing. Many people are scared of dentists, so they don't want to go to the dental appointment. Or kids tend to be scared of the dentist, and they don't want to let their parents clean their teeth, or they don't want to go to the dentist, and it kind of goes with them. This fear goes with them to their adulthood when they still feel very uncomfortable when their dental appointment is scheduled and they see it in their calendar that, yeah, tomorrow is the day and tomorrow you're gonna go to the dentist office. And, it may feel kind of uncomfortable, and we assume that horses and other animals may feel this way as well. And yes, they probably do. I don't think horses or donkeys or mules enjoy being treated by a veterinarian, but that doesn't mean that these situations have to turn into a dangerous nightmare. So we can help our equines or our animals in general to feel more comfortable in situations like vet procedures or husbandry care in general. And not just that, we can even teach them to cooperate. So horses can learn to cooperate in all different kinds of situations like vet procedures, husbandry procedures, daily care, and not just this. We can go even further and develop communication between us and the horses. And we can teach them that they can give their consent with these procedures. Yes, like legit consent. The horse says, yes, I want this injection, like literally. We can train our horses to use this kind of communication. And I will be diving into this in another episode of this podcast for sure, because this is very interesting and this really can take this whole human-horse communication on a different level. So even if you have a horse who doesn't like veterinarians or farriers, you don't need to fight your horse every single time you need to give them their deworming or get them injected or take care about their eye or their wound or something like this. In fact, these situations are signs for you to pause and think about how to help the horse feel more comfortable, how to train the horse to participate in their care, And this is where cooperative care really comes into play, because really we can teach our horses to participate in daily tasks, daily care, as well as in vet procedures such as injections or deworming or whatever we need to do. So in cooperative care, we don't want horses to just be passively tolerating whatever procedure we need to do on them, but rather we want to encourage them to become active participant in the procedure, and we focus on doing the procedure with them, in cooperation with them, which is a big difference. It totally makes sense to get horses used to whatever emergency procedure or even like routine procedures in the way that the horse simply tolerates what we need to do on them, because sometimes we will need it, especially in emergencies. But with cooperative care, we can really create this beautiful conversation between the horse and the human, and we can completely transform the way the horse sees vet procedures or similar situations, and we can truly make them a part of this conversation, a part of training, a part of normal human-horse interactions that both the horse and the human can enjoy. So this is just a little bit of what cooperative care can do for you and your horses. And now let's have a look at what cooperative care is and what are the basic principles. So as I said, cooperative care means that horses learn to cooperate in their care. And I also said that there is something like a consent. So for me, cooperative care, the true cooperative care is consent-based care. It means that I am asking my horses or horses that I work with for their consent before I start doing something. And no matter how difficult and not practical it may sound, it is actually very practical, and it is not that difficult. It is just about teaching the horse that there is a certain outcome that follows their behavior. Okay? So let's come back to the principles of cooperative care. I said that cooperative care is like a conversation between the horse and the human, and just like we need to learn the conversation, especially if we want to have a conversation in a different language, we first have to learn the language. So in the exact same way, our horses have to learn the language of positive reinforcement, because cooperative care is based on the positive reinforcement training. Horses learn to cooperate based on the positive reinforcement training. So first of all, they need to learn the basics. Positive reinforcement training is reward-based training. So we work with rewards, which are mainly food rewards. So one of the first things the horses need to learn is how to take these rewards and how to behave in the presence of food rewards, which is really the foundation of any further training. Then they learn the meaning of the bridge signal. So when we use food rewards, it's very beneficial to use a bridge signal as well. You may know that the positive reinforcement training is also sometimes called clicker training. It's not necessarily the same thing, because clicker training is a type of positive reinforcement training where we use so-called bridge signal, which can be a sound of the clicker, or it can be something else, such as a specific word. It doesn't even have to make sense, but it has to be short, sharp, and easy to distinguish for the horse. Or it can be a tongue click like this. I do this a lot. If you watch my videos, you will see me doing all the time. This is my bridge signal. This is what I use because it keeps my hands free, and it is very important for cooperative care, because especially if you train with some equipment, some props like syringe or a stethoscope or something, you want to have one hand for handling the prop and the other one for giving the horse rewards. So using this tongue click is a very good way of using a bridge signal. Now, what is the bridge signal for? The bridge signal is something that signalizes that the horse is about to get a reward, and that marks the exact moment that earns the horse a reward. Okay, so it helps you really make your training precise, because we don't have any other way to tell the horse that, okay, this is the moment, do this behavior, I want to see this behavior more often, then giving the horse a piece of a reward in the exact moment. But sometimes we just cannot physically do it. We just cannot physically deliver the reward in the exact moment when we need to. And that's why we use bridge signal. So next thing your horse should learn if you want to start cooperative care training is the meaning of the bridge signal. Together with the meaning of the bridge signal, I usually start training what I call the default position, which is the very first behavior that I train with the horses when I start training them to cooperate in their care. Because, again, we don't want our horses to be all over us when we have treats. We don't want them to be too much in our pockets. We don't want them to start mugging us or nipping or something like this. So we have to make it really clear of what we want our horses to do. Okay? In cooperative care or in positive reinforcement training in general, it is very important to switch the way we think about the horse's behavior. When the horse does some unwanted behavior during vet procedures or vet visits or farrier appointments, we often see the unwanted behavior and we think, I don't want my horse to do this. So when we think like this, we often think about what can I do to prevent my horse from doing this behavior, which leads us to using punishment, to punishing this behavior. Well, yes, punishment is effective, but it is not very ethical. And sometimes it is not very clear for the horse because it doesn't tell the horse what they should be doing. Punishment stops behavior. So it tells the horse, don't do this. But it doesn't contain the information, the other piece of the information of what the horse really should be doing instead. So in positive reinforcement training and in cooperative care, it is really important to switch the way we think about this into what do I want my horse to do in this specific situation? Because this way of thinking sets you up for trying to identify the desired behavior and then reward the behavior. And naturally, when some behavior earns the horse a reward, a piece of a treat or something like this, the horse will try to repeat this behavior again to earn another treat. So this is how we can shape the horse's behavior by reinforcing what we want our horses to do. So basically, when I come back to cooperative care, when the horse knows the basic of the conversation, the basics of positive reinforcement training, then we can start shaping whatever cooperative behavior. So cooperative care is based on the fact that the horse learns behaviors that makes taking care of them easier. And in many cases, it can be as simple as the standing still behavior. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You can start by simply teaching your horse to stand still, reinforcing the moment of stillness, and then working on duration to teach the horse to stand still for a longer period of time. And this can be your first cooperative behavior, because the horse doesn't have to be tied or restrained in one place. The horse can learn to stand still on one place. And the difference is that in this case, when you do it cooperatively, The horse does it voluntarily, and the horse thinks about what they're doing. They make a conscious decision that they want to stand still on this exact spot and allow you to brush them or to clean their wound or something like this. So this is a simple cooperative behavior you can start doing with your horses today, and you will soon see results. If you do this right, you will soon have a horse who will be more focused on you and who will be more willing to cooperate with you and to have a conversation with you, and who will be thinking about what they're doing and focusing on doing their best. Okay, one of the absolutely best things about positive reinforcement training is that horses are trying to do their best to earn a reward. When training with pressure and release, we often have horses who do what's necessary. They do what's required, which in many cases is okay because we usually don't want horses to get too creative when riding or doing some other equestrian activities. But on the other hand, in positive reinforcement training, they can really get creative, and you can get creative. Oftentimes, when I'm teaching my students, they ask me, "Can I do it this way? You said that you are doing it this way, but for my horse, it seems to work better when I do it this way. Can I do it this way?" And I say, yes, of course. Cooperative care or positive reinforcement training in general isn't about following some recipes. It's about knowing the principles and then about figuring out what works best for you and your horses. So you can really get creative, and you can encourage your horse to get creative to get the desired cooperative behavior. And one of the examples of this is when I trained my horse to cooperate in deworming, and I trained him to grab a tube with his lips, and then I gave him the medication, or there was an apple juice in this tube, and it was like a big syringe. So he had his reinforcement right from the syringe. And then I thought, okay, but maybe there will be a situation when someone other than me will need to give my horse an oral medication, and they may not know that the horse is trained to do this, and they may come and grab the horse around the nose. So I decided that I will teach this kind of a restraint in a positive way. So I started adding my hand wrapped around his nose, and he started targeting my hand. So instead of me adding this movement as a restraint, I add this movement as a target. So I just presented my hand and arm in a specific angle, and my horse came and put his head through this kind of loop that was made by my arm and my hand. And this was his start button, start signal for me to give him his deworming, which was completely creative. He created this exercise or this way of cooperating by himself. And I said, yes, okay, yes, of course, you can do this. You can do it this way. That's amazing. I wouldn't have figured it out myself, but you did. So yes, cooperative care can be creative. And also, when speaking about how I trained my horse to, or better to say, how my horse trained me, how he wants his deworming to be served, I also said something about a start button or a start signal, which is another important part of equine cooperative care. So I said that cooperative care is consent-based care, and that you can teach your horses to give you their consent with whatever procedure you need to do. So now what is it? So start button or start signal is a signal from a horse that they're ready. They're ready for the procedure, or they're ready for the next step, or they are ready for the training session to start. So it's basically their way of initiating the training. So when training horses to cooperate in their care, we want them to be active participants in this process. And that's why we allow them to be responsible for taking the first step. Because when the horse takes the first step and says yes to the procedure by using a start button behavior or by showing us that they are ready for the procedure, they are conscious about making this decision. And when it's like a full body yes from the horse is less likely to do any avoidance behavior because we are not chasing the horse around with a syringe. We are not putting the pressure on the horse, but the horse decides to take the first step towards the conversation. And the horse does it when they're ready. So these are some of the key concepts of equine cooperative care. If you want to know more, follow vet care training on social media and also take my free online course called the Introduction to Equine Cooperative Care, where you can expand your knowledge on the basic principles and where I will show you also some of the cooperative care training videos. And I think the video with the deworming that I was speaking about is there too. I'm not 100% sure, but you can find it out. Okay, so thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you in another episode. Bye.